So it's we're talking about the Institute Road BHS BTC building, this project that we are undergoing there. So the purpose of this agenda topic is to update you and our community on PCBs at the BHS BTC building on Institute Road and their impact on the broader ReEnvisioning project. Through our ReEnvisioning construction project, we found PCBs in a number of places. And excuse me, because I'm going to kind of go through some of the history that many of you know about, but I want to put it I want to kind of contextualize it and put it in a bit of a story here. So the first PCBs we found were in window caulking and then in soils. And then we found PCBs in block and brick walls that were next to the windows. Then we found them in mastic or the glue, which is under the floor tiles. And we found it in the air. So the PCBs have gone into the air as well as into the soil and into the walls and into the floor. And most recently, we learned that the PCBs have leached from the mastic glue into at least 1/4 of an inch into the concrete flooring underneath the tiling. So unfortunately, at each step of the process, we find more materials with PCBs. And I'm growing increasingly concerned about the cost of future remediation and the ability for the remediation to reduce levels of airborne PCBs to below the state screening levels. We're currently planning a pilot remediation project to understand the PCB contamination, and this project will conclude in August. Currently, we are testing, right? But the pilot remediation project hasn't begun yet. So the pilot remediation project is in the planning phases still, and that will help us understand the contamination. And that's the project that is set to conclude in August. That is designed to tell us if it's possible to remediate the PCBs in the building and how much that might cost. Our best estimate now is that full remediation could cost at least $7 to $12 million. So I'm bringing this to you today so that we can begin talking more about this as a governing body and so that the public is aware of this conversation. I'm growing increasingly uneasy about the extent of PCB contamination, and I'm worried that even if it is possible to remediate, it might not be worth it. I'm not convinced that it is of value to our students, staff, or taxpayers to spend millions of dollars on remediation, as we still may not get below the state screening threshold for airborne PCBs, and will likely need ongoing monitoring, which comes at an annual cost. At this time, we have $73.6 million available for the ReEnvisioning project, but no budget for remediation or for the Burlington Technical Center, as F building is no longer a part of the project. I want the board to know that if we move forward with remediation, we will need to identify alternative funding sources for that cost, and we will need to find space and funding for BTC. And if we need to build a new building, we will need more than $70 million, the $70 million bond that taxpayers approved in November of 2018. So we don't have enough information yet to make a final decision, but I do believe it is time for us to think really hard about alternatives. And timing is important, because if we decide to embark on a new building project, starting this spring could save us a year. We should plan to discuss this at our board meeting in May and possibly make a decision before the completion of the pilot project in August, and maybe even next month. So I want to remind you that there's a lot of information that can be found on the ReEnvisioning webpage of the school district, www.bsdvt.org. And I'd like to encourage the public to visit our website to learn more, and to remind you all and the public that our Building Construction Oversight Committee also holds monthly public meetings.
All right. So now we're all on the same page here. I'm going to stop screen sharing.